Thank you, Sahar, for joining us. Sahar Salam from outside of Chicago, excited to hear from Hani. Solidarity with you and other Arab athletes. Okay, so let me, since more and more people will be joining, we have like around 20 people on the call right now. And let me introduce myself. My name is Bishara, and I am the founder and the director of the Museum of the Palestinian People based in Washington, D.C. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Bethlehem and I was born in Jerusalem. And, I was also raised in also outside of Bethlehem in a farm where it's surrounded by the Israeli settlements. And my family has been in the court since 1991, trying to keep the farm from being taken away. And that also inspired me to educate people about what's happening in Palestine and what's happening with us as Palestinians. I moved to the United States, to Washington, D.C. in 2011. And as any tourist coming to the city, I was really amazed by the museums, monuments, and memorials. And what I saw that was missing in the museum scene is the Palestinian story. I couldn't find a place where our story can be told, our story can be shared, whether our story or our culture and our arts. Especially that living in the United States for the past few years, I saw that the Palestinian story is reduced to a news item. We mostly hear about Palestinians in the news, whether there are violent people or they're victims. And I wanted to create something to show the Palestinians as human beings, to show Palestinians as artists, as entrepreneurs, as people who have dreams and can create a lot of things, especially when we look at Palestinians in the United States. Like, we see a lot of entrepreneurs, we see people in politics, we see people in the arts, people in the sports, and not in the US and all over the world, like people like Hani, who's joining us today. These are like a lot of many of the Palestinian figures around the world who's creating and who's telling and showing the Palestinians and the Palestinian story in a new light. A little bit about how the museum started. We started as a traveling exhibit in 2015, and started to travel around the country from universities, colleges, community centers, different avenues, using arts, culture, and storytelling, and we created momentum where we reached at some point in last year, where we obtained a space in Washington, D.C., and we were able to open last year of 2019. And we are working on telling the story through arts, through cultures, through storytelling, and not just tell one story, but transcend to tell so many stories beyond politics, beyond religious, beyond racial distinctions that we create as human beings between us. And we want visitors to come to the museum and to discover themselves, to discover their humanity by getting to know us, by getting to know our stories, by getting to know who we are as Palestinians. As I said, we opened last year. We've been receiving thousands of visitors since June 15th of 2019. One of them was Hani Thaljieh, and we actually had to close in the past couple of months because of the coronavirus. But we wanted to continue the mission, and we wanted to continue sharing the story and sharing the culture through other means. So we created a virtual museum where anyone and everyone from around the world can go into the museum and can view our artifacts in a new cutting-edge technology. And we've been doing a lot of Zoom calls. We've been doing concerts. We've been inviting people, Palestinians from all over the world, to share their story with our audience. And hopefully we are looking to open like in the next couple of weeks as things are started to open up in Washington, D.C. I don't want to take too much time, but I would like to introduce Hani, who's with us today. And Hani just wanted to share a little bit about her and who she is and what she does. Hani Thaljieh is a manager of corporate communications at FIFA, where she founded and leads the FIFA Annual Conference for Equality and Inclusion. As corporate communications manager, Hani also works to communicate FIFA's effort and lead projects to promote diversity, gender equality, integration and empowerment, and peace initiatives through football or soccer in the United States. Thaljieh is the co-founder of the women's football in Palestine, the first captain of the Palestinian national football team, and the first woman in the Middle East to obtain a FIFA Masters and be employed by FIFA. She managed to break through social and political barriers and become a role model to women and girls throughout the Arab world and beyond. Hani is an international activist, inspirational speaker, and community leader, and strong advocate for the role of sports in changing lives and creating hope and opportunities. Join me in welcoming Hani with us this afternoon. Thank you, Hani, for joining us. And feel free to post your questions while we're talking on Zoom, or we're also on Facebook Live. So please feel free to ask your questions while we're chatting with Hani, while she's on the call on Facebook as well. Thank you. Hani?
Yep. Hello. Hello, Bishara. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me for such an opportunity. I hope everyone is listening for us. They are doing well in this crazy pandemic time, and everyone is healthy. Greetings from Zurich to the United States, especially in Washington. And I just wanted also to say that I'm very proud of you and of what you have done, and of the museum, of everything you have established so far. And of course, the story behind you is also very inspiring and powerful, since we all know the context that we come from and the challenges that we have to face and endure as Palestinian people. And as you mentioned correctly, yes, we are trying not to show the word or the story about us being victims, or about about violence or about destruction. Our story is about hope, is about opportunities, is about art, music, sports. It's about showing the reality and the potentials of the Palestinian people. No matter where we go or where we are, we have a lot of skills and experiences and talents to offer to the world, especially with a message of hope and resilience during all what we have faced in our lives since we were born until today. And coming from Palestine and now living in Zurich, of course, I am no stranger for all these challenges and the obstacles that we had to face every day in our life. I mean, growing up in Bethlehem, surrounded by walls and checkpoints and a lot of stuff, extraordinary stuff that happened every day in our life. Every day we thought that, of course, tomorrow might never come. Yes, today the world is facing such difficulty with the pandemic. Today the world is in a lockdown because of the pandemic. But I just want to mention that the Palestinian people have been in lockdown mostly our entire life, and we are still facing the lockdown with fear and insecurity and injustice, looking for hope and a glimpse of hope, despite of all the situations that we are going through, or we have been through, or we are still going through as Palestinians in Palestine, even beyond. And the fact that for me, football was the hope in my case. Yes, in your case, it was art and the museum. And in my case, it was football. So since I was little, I started playing football in the narrow streets of Bethlehem. And I say hi to Samia. Yes, of course, I remember our interaction together and the project that you supported for us. Thank you very much for that. And I'm glad to see you here. So yeah, growing up, like loving football was something really extraordinary, despite the fact that football is not only for men. That's how people think, and culturally wise, like girls are not allowed to play football, and football is just for boys, and like the society trying to limit the role of girls, what they can do, what they cannot do, and of course the other challenges that comes with it, the political challenge and the struggle that we have to live under as Palestinians growing up in a war zone, I must say. And this all started like how to convince the society, and definitely my parents, especially my father, about starting or playing football. And for me, I can say that I was born as a rebel, I think. Most Palestinians are rebels, I believe, and the resilience in us, it never goes away, because when we want something, we have to make it happen. And we believe that there are no limits. Not even the sky is our limit, because we dream big and we always believe that we can make our dreams come true. And I always believe that the struggles and the difficulties can create the success. And we always say, I can quote Billie Jean King in that she gave me a book 2 years ago, her book, which says, a pressure is a privilege. And I very much relate to that pressure is definitely a privilege, but sometimes we question why us Palestinians, that we have to conquer all that, and why I was not being born in Switzerland, for example, where I am here now, and everything is free and freedom and opportunities, and no walls, no restrictions, no barriers. Kids grow up with many choices and many options, and they even don't know which option they have to choose. And like growing up in such a context, fighting through football was even more challenging, because as I mentioned, football was not meant for girls. And the fact that I grew up with this rebel or resilience inside me, I challenged my community, I challenged my parents, I challenged my neighbors, I challenged everyone who told me no, not to play football. And especially, like, I would always ask, give me a good argument why I shouldn't play football, and why I should take a no for an answer. Especially, like, if you allow the boys to play in the streets, why not me? And I refused from the beginning, on an early age, to accept the fact that girls should stay home and boys should be playing football in the streets. And there where the fight started, I must say. And step by step, trying to convince my family, trying to convince the society. Of course, I had to come against all the odds, get all the criticism, get punished, promise not to play football again, and all that and that, until to a point that actually they gave up. Because when I grew up, everyone thought I will grow without football. But little did they know that when I grew up, I started to believe that football is definitely much more than the game. And then it started for me to be about freedom, about fighting for women's rights, gender equality, self-esteem for girls, confidence, hope, opportunities, equality, human rights, all that. And also like a sign for resilience for the Palestinian people, that we don't fight with violence. We fight with football, we fight with soccer, we fight for something we love, something we care about, and something which is fair play, known as around all the world that football is for everyone. And that was the messages that I started to build up within establishing the women's football team, starting from Bethlehem University, of course, and then going forward from 5 girls to hundreds of girls playing football, from no one believing in the game to so many now parents and brothers and sisters and families believing that girls should play football, and they even support their girls nowadays to play football. And this is the struggle that we had to go through every day in our life, and the fight that we have to conquer during our upbringing, to ensure that we have the right to play football as any others. Of course, not to mention the lack of equipment, the lack of support, the lack of financial resources, the lack of so many things that could be or would put our story to be impossible. But I'm just proud that we managed to bring the team together. We had the support from the people who cared about it, from the people who wanted this team to succeed and prove a point, not only in the Palestinian context, but in the Arab context and internationally as well. And as I started saying that our story was not about winning or losing only, because of course, when we go and play with other teams, they all have the equipment and the backgrounds and the training. And we had the very, very, very basic. I remember that I didn't even have a shoes to play with. And I remember my first shoes, how it happened that I was once attending a FIFA course, and FIFA provided Adidas equipment for us. And for me, that shoes was the happiness of my life, to get an Adidas shoes. And you know how much I was so happy to get a football shoes to play with. And now I understand what does it mean, because I still have these shoes kept in my closet until today, reminding myself how much happiness I got out of it. So football is I think it's a great tool to bring smiles and make people happy. And that's why I'm privileged now and grateful that I managed to get out from the streets of Bethlehem to the international world stages and start working at FIFA and using the FIFA platform to give others opportunities and inspire others and empower them and give them opportunities. And that's what we wanted, actually. We Palestinians have the talents and the skills and the experiences, but we miss opportunities, not only for Palestinians. I think people all around the world, like coming from unprivileged situations, from poverty, from refugee camps, from villages. We need opportunities. That's what people need. They have the potentials, they have the skills, but opportunities are a key. And that's where I believe that I could give back to football now, being in FIFA, working in communications, working on different campaigns, leaving a legacy behind wherever we go, wherever we participate in tournaments, to empower girls, to empower boys and girls to, you know, use football as a tool to fight their circumstances, a tool for hope, as a tool for like looking forward for a better future. And that's how it all started, you know, from Palestine to Switzerland. I know I talk too much. You can cut me anytime. So I can't.
Sorry, I am on mute. You know, and honey, I also wanted to say that I remember we played soccer together when I was,
of course.
you know, and I I never imagined yet you're gonna be like, you know, like in the FIFA, like, because everyone was playing soccer and we would go on the streets. It's just a normal thing to do, like half time, free time, let's play soccer. And it's really great to see you on the international stages with like big player like Cristiano Ronaldo and other, you know, big players around the world. And it's really making me very proud, and you know, as Palestinian, and also as your cousin, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, talking about playing football with you, you were very young. I don't want to talk about my age now, but but I think from my gray hair, people can can
Yeah.
notice.
No,
Yeah,
no. Yeah.
that's how it was. Yeah, and you know, we believe in something, and we want to make it happen and show a different story to the world. A story not about construction and death, a story about celebration of life. You know, celebration of opportunities, and you know, how we can also give that to others and keep fighting. I think. That's our role as Palestinians. The resilience inside us keep fighting until we are recognized, we are fully respected and appreciated for who we are and where do we belong and what we do, rather than always, you know, like traveling around the world with a Palestinian passport. Many times, like you are not recognized as a citizen. Many times I had the stateless status. Uh, Everywhere in big organizations, even I have a stateless a status, and
Yeah.
that's really like humiliating for us, for Palestinians everywhere around the world, to not even being recognized as a full citizen in our country and beyond.
Yes. So, honey, can you talk more about your work with FIFA? Like specifically, like what is your role at FIFA? I know that you've been traveling all over the world. You're using your Palestinian passport to travel, so that adds another difficulty. Like, can you tell us more about the difficulty of accessing as a public figure having a Palestinian passport? You know, can you tell us more about that? And when you go to these countries like around the world, what exactly do you do? Like, what is the message that you're putting out there for young women and girls?
Yeah, so definitely, you know, traveling with a Palestinian passport is not the easiest. Sometimes I had to miss connecting flights because the security at the control at the airport didn't find Palestine on their systems. And we have to go through that all the time, definitely. And not only that, getting visas to countries and waiting to be approved. And sometimes you had to miss also like business trips because the visa didn't come on time, or you know, etc., etc. I think all Palestinians will relate to that all around the world, traveling with a Palestinian passport. But the fact that the moment I just leave to another country and see the power of football and the work we do, you know, to empower those people, inspire them, whether by building football pitches or stadiums, or distributing equipment, or educating through football for schools, through football programs we have among our 211 member associations, through the support that FIFA gives to the 211 member associations all around the world. Definitely, it is rewarding. Then we know that we have a purpose in life, and the struggle is worth it. And wherever we go to countries, we try to use you know, to leave an impact as well. For example, like different projects we had when we organized a tournament or the World Cup under 17 in Jordan. You know, we try to empower the refugees in the country, because we thought that it's a big problem with refugees in the country, and what we could do to include refugees to be part of the tournament, to come and watch the World Cup, and you know, get a glimpse of hope and opportunity. Yes, football will not end the refugees' status, and will not bring them to Syria or to Palestine or wherever, but it will give them an opportunity to hope that it might happen, that they get out of this, and there is another great open world waiting for them beyond the refugee camp. And of course, we tackle other issues with domestic violence, with girls, being violated because of poverty or because of, the patriarchal societies, and no awareness, no education. So we try with education, we try with health, with hope, with everything that we have in FIFA, using the platform to empower people all around the world. Of course, through our 211 associations, member associations, and I'm proud that I'm part of that, because I can see the differences and I can see the impact that happens to the people in the countries, and the benefits that they get out of such projects and such opportunities that FIFA offers.
That's wonderful. Thank you for going through, like all the work that you're doing with empowering, giving people hope. It's really important. I mean, without hope, we can't do anything. We just stay still.
Yeah.
We have few questions from the audiences, from the like both Instagram and Facebook and Zoom. Athena is asking. She said, "What a beautiful and inspiring story. Honey, can you talk about what's unique about being a woman leader in your field? What perspectives or qualities do you bring that's different than your male colleagues?"
I believe being a woman in such a field, it's challenging. It's definitely challenging, as being a woman in general. It is challenging because we kind of live in a patriarchal world where majority of jobs are given to men. Politicians, leaders, it's a majority men. And I believe that it's a struggle for women to fight the fight and to be where they want to be, because it always comes with challenges. Women have to prove themselves all the time that they can do it. And while men, they just go for it and they get it. And I think that's very crucial, that women fight for their rights and present themselves and go for it, and take all the challenges, and show that they are capable and they can. Because I believe that a lot of women have great potentials, but they just have to be there and to be on the table and have a voice. And that's very important as well, to be on the table and have a voice and be confident and competent of your background, experiences, and skills, and the perspective you bring here. Of course, diversity is important. And I'm always talking about diversity and equality and inclusion. I can't see a management board, for example, anywhere around the world without diversity in that board, whether it's women, whether it's Black, it's white, it's Muslim, Christians, any nationality, any background, any ethnicity. I think it is really important that we are in 2020, that any management board has at least half women, half men, from different backgrounds, different opportunities, because everyone is special and everyone is can contribute, and our differences make us unique. And that's what is important, that we embrace our uniquenesses, our differences, and like together we can be stronger. I cannot believe in a place where it's just men who are ruling a company or organization, because you need the other perspective from women. You need the other perspective from the other side. Whether women, we need it from men, and men, we need it from women. So I think it's important that we look forward for an equal world where it is half-half. It's 50%, 50%. And I really believe that governments and leaders and have to start with policies to ensure that it has to be equal and it has to change. And I believe the future is for women, but we need also to work hard and present ourselves and be there, and go for it, like how many men do that, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Athena said she absolutely agree. So thank you for bringing that perspective to the world and the FIFA as well. Another question from Sahar Mustafa. She's asking, this is actually a good question. I would like to know myself. What has been a particular rewarding moment for you in your career as an athlete or advocate activist for young girls? Any specific anecdotes to share? Like any specific moments that rewarding in your career?
Actually, for me, I would say one story that it is really close to my heart and touched me so much. I believe in 2015, something around that, I went to India for a project to empower girls from the slums.
Mm,
And I literally went to the slums and saw how the girls are living there and the miserable life they have to face and conquer every day in our lives. And talking to them about football and kicking around football, and trying to give them hope and opportunities, and trying to also present to them that this is not the world that only they live in. The world is much bigger than that, full of opportunities and better places than they live in, because sometimes it's important to raise the awareness that there is another thing out there, rather than just staying within the slums and seeing how the life is. And that sometimes you get used to it, and that is dangerous to get that to the life, to get used to where you are, because it's important always to see beyond, and it's important for us to go and show them something else. And I remember exactly how the situation were in that slums. For 3 days it was really hard time, that I even didn't manage to sleep, because it was really sad and really frustrating that we are in the 21st century and still people are living in such a poverty and in such circumstances. But what happened is, in 2017, I was in Oslo for a World Cup called the Homeless World Cup. And I was walking through the different activities in Oslo. And there's this little girl from behind coming and calling my name, honey, honey. I looked at, and she was like, do you remember me? And then she said, I'm the girl that you met at the slums 3 years ago. And I couldn't handle it. I just had tears in my eyes. And then for me, that is rewarding. That is more than what I want in my life. That's the girl, she's out now. And for the first time ever, she's in Oslo and enjoying the tournament. So football has given her the opportunity to change her life. And I think that is a moment I'm proud of. I mean, I didn't do anything to change her life. She worked to go out and get out and be in Oslo, but I think that's a moment it touched me a lot.
Thank you for sharing that touching moment. It's really great to see her, like, from that place that she made it, like, to Norway. And I think that reminds me of yourself, how, like, you played in the streets of Bethlehem, and now you're in Switzerland, right, in FIFA. So I think that's a good reminder. And for me, like, I like being in Bethlehem, being in Palestine, like with the lack of opportunities, and now in Washington D.C., the director of the museum. So it's really touching. Thank you for sharing that. There's several questions, and we have time. So someone, Rebecca from Facebook, asked, honey, thank you so much for sharing. What do you think are the best ways for non-Palestinian sports fans to support Palestinian players and rights through the game?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I believe spreading the words is really important, and being brave about sharing the Palestinian stories and the Palestinian struggles, and not hesitate to talk about it. Because as much as we have non-Palestinians talking about it, as much as the world believe us more. Because I mean, I can keep talking about the life that I have been through and the struggle we are facing as Palestinians. Maybe people will not believe it, because maybe they will think I'm biased, I'm trying to give another story, and that the media perceiving us in a way that we are terrorists, we are violent, we are less educated, we are. And I believe that spreading the word, it's very important. Sharing it on your social media platform, be brave about it, talk about Palestinian stories, talk about how your relationship with Palestinian people. Try to spread the awareness and the words, because I think that's the best nowadays with digitalization and social media. I think that's the best for non-Palestinians to do, to support Palestinian rights through the game or without the game. And of course, if you can lobby to support in funding or in equipment or building stadiums or football pitches instead of building walls, instead of so that would help, of course. But I think first of all, um, the word is important, and creating awareness is definitely important.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is a question from Analysis. I'm not sure the name, but I think someone on Zoom. Honey, to follow on some of what you said, we know that mega sporting events such as the World Cup have a lot of problems with it. Economic destabilization and debt raising of the countries that host it, militarization of police, housing displacement, and so forth. Do those of you in FIFA who are persons of conscience and human rights, such as yourself, feel you have room to voice concerns without any backlash against you professionally?
No, and definitely, of course, there are problems and challenges. I would say challenges everywhere. Like you want to do a big mega event, whether through the Olympics, whether through the Euro, whether through the Champions League, whether through the FIFA World Cup in South Africa, whether we did it in Brazil, whether we were doing in Qatar, or later on in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. There are absolutely challenges that we need to tackle and conquer every day in our career. But of course, we are aware of all these, issues with human rights or with that faces every country. And it's important that, FIFA, within the bidding book, that human rights is an essential, and human right is something that has to be fulfilled within the countries. And that's why we ensure that we work with Amnesty International, with international organizations, human rights organizations, to ensure that human rights will take place. And of course, change will take time, and the challenges need time to be tackled. But FIFA is putting all their efforts to tackle all these issues on the ground, definitely. So. And the World Cup, it's the FIFA World Cup. It's a good way to tackle the issues, because when you place the tournament somewhere, then of course people will start to be aware of the problems that's happening in the country, like in Russia, for example, when we did the World Cup in Russia. So there were people talking about the problems that are happening in Russia and challenges, and then we tackle them. Like the same with Qatar, workers' rights, and climate, and like whether we do it in winter or in summer. Of course, there are challenges, but we are tackling it within, like having the World Cup there. And then the people will be more aware of it, and the people will talk about it. And then hopefully the challenges will be tackled, and solutions will arise.
Thank you for that, Honey. There's In terms of so someone asking about women's soccer. In terms of women's soccer, when Rachel Bishop, when we see that the American team winning almost every major trophy, how can we help grow the game to ensure that more women national teams are competitive in soccer, in particularly in poor nations such as Palestine?
Yes, I think the American team is a great example for winning 4 times the FIFA Women's World Cup. And the last one was in France just last year. And I witnessed that and I was there and I was so proud to see them winning actually. Yes, but the American team, well, also they had to go through so many challenges and struggles and to be recognized and to get fair payment for their achievements and for their hard work. And so it's sad, but it's so challenging that women have to go through this all the time. While if you want to look at men's teams, they can easily get the funding or the sponsoring or etc., because then they would tell you the history of men and women. It's different, and years took until the FIFA Women's World Cup started in 1991, while men's World Cup started already in 1930s. So yes, it takes time, and yes, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of fight and a lot of struggle. But yes, from here we want also to send the message to the world. The Women's World Cup was a great success in France, and now we are looking forward for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, which is going to be hosted by New Zealand and Australia. And I'm sure that in 2023 there will be many things that would change the women's football in general and women's soccer, and will be more sponsors who care about the game, and hopefully will be revenues and will be more ticket sales, etc., etc. So we need awareness at all levels to bring women's football much forward, and then it will influence not only Palestine but also the Middle East and beyond, because it takes policies and it takes leaders and it takes government to put in place to move things to move things forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great. Yeah, thank you for that. I am just looking at the question. I also wanted to note that to the audience that I maybe correct me if I'm wrong, honey, but you're no longer the captain of the Palestinian national team because of an injury that that occurred to you a few years ago, and you're now on more on the like on the empowering side of things. You're not actually playing with them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I just got a lot of injuries, and yes, I am ex-football player, and I'm also old now for playing in the national team. But I finished already in 2010. 2009 was my first injury. Then 2010 it happened again, and then therefore where I started to think I want to move forward with the next level. Therefore, I applied for a master's degree in sports management supported by FIFA. It's a FIFA master, actually, that I studied in 3 places in Europe, in England, in Italy, and in Switzerland. And after that, FIFA offered an internship for 30 students from all around the world. And I was grateful enough that I was one of the candidates that got accepted for the internship. And since then, I'm in FIFA. So September will be my 8th year.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, and it's good. It's good that we that we mentioned that so people can know more of the story and the background of who you are today, honey.
We good?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
I think we might have, Bashar, we can hear you. So I'll just, while you're trying to get your microphone worked out, this is Amber from the museum. I'm a
Hello.
volunteer. I wanted to ask this one question that came through in the chat box from Abby about the logistics of how you led a professional women's team in Palestine, where things, unfortunately, facilities and equipment are severely limited. How did you recruit women for the team? How do you fund uniforms, equipment, fields, etc.?
Of course, it was not easy at all. We used the help of Bethlehem University. Definitely, I thank here the director of the sports department, Samar Arash. She's still there, and I hope she can hear me. It was a great, I mean, she is the co-founder with me, definitely on this case. So she offered us the platform. So we started in Bethlehem University with only 2-3 players, and then we expanded. And then how we recruited the girls, actually, first it was hard to convince the girls that the football is good for them. So basically we tried to tell them, to take them from volleyball and basketball and other teams, to tell them football is great and football will open opportunities for you. We know that football will make you travel, and there will be tournaments that we can play in the West Asia and beyond. So we started convincing, like campaigning for the girls to come and join football. And then we managed to have 5 girls to start off with, you know, like, because we started 5-a-sides indoor. And then, of course, we were playing against the boys all the time because we didn't have any other women's team to compete with. And after that, you know, we used the facilities of Bethlehem University, which was also basic at that time. It was a concrete asphalt football pitch where most of our injuries happened there, and because it's really concrete and it's very basic. But we didn't care. We didn't care about the injuries. We didn't care about what people think of us. We just loved to play football, and it was a way for us to block, I mean, to be distracted from wherever we grew up in such circumstances where you believe that no hope and no future and no opportunities, and football was the best way, regardless of all the difficulties, to distract us from insanity, actually, and just give us a secure place. Because if you ask a lot of my teammates, what do you feel when you play football? They will tell you, we forget the word. We feel that we own it, actually, because football is everything, and it's a moment of happiness. And that's why the girls started spreading the words and then trying to convince their parents, and you know, the parents started to believe in it. They started to come and watch the girls playing, until step by step we got the recognition from the Football Federation, the Palestine Football Association, and later on the recognition of FIFA. Because FIFA usually supports member associations in that regard, and there is a special percentage that has to go for women. So the federation has to establish our women's football team to also get part of the funding from FIFA, and that's how it started until 2008, when a Palestinian federation president got elected, General Rajoub. He supported massively the women's movement and the women's team because he believed that also women should play football. So it made our life easier. And then we started growing and growing and growing. And of course, I must say that clubs in Bethlehem adopted the idea. And one of the earliest one was DR Bethlehem, where I also belong to, and where I started also my football career after Bethlehem University with DR, to recruit more girls, to establish grassroots girls academies. And now we have a big academy at DR for girls who love to play football, and to train them. And the girls who played with me, they are the coaches, they are the administrators, and they are the decision makers. And that makes me so happy that a movement has been created, and I'm proud of the girls and the women that is behind now, taking care of all this movement that we created just 15 years ago.
Thanks. Bashar, you're
Go
back.
ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, my internet got disconnected. Go ahead, Abby.
No, it's okay. I was just to say thank you for that answer. It's very, very interesting. There's another question on a somewhat related topic about Palestinian refugees in Jordan, and about specifically, is the Al Wahdat football team a way for Palestinians in Jordan to hope and be proud of their home country? And this question reminds me of the Chilean Palestinian players in Chile. I'm thinking about Palestinians around the world in the diaspora. And maybe in addition to that, the specific question about Palestinians in Jordan, you could talk a little bit about how football has provided a conduit.
Of course, football gave them identity, absolutely. And it was a way to talk about their struggles and deliver their messages, because I believe football's identity it was for me as well an identity to tackle all the struggles and the issues we have been through every day in our life, and it worked. Football is a symbol of freedom, is a symbol of justice, is a symbol of humanity. Dignity to the Palestinian people everywhere we go. And you mentioned the perfect example of Palestino in Chile and the diaspora. In Chile, there's a huge football club league called Palestino, and it's the most powerful club in the world, with the Palestinian name Palestino, and they represent everything about Palestine, about the identity, about the struggle, about the symbol of freedom, about symbol of hope for Palestinian people in the diaspora. Yes, I think Palestinians everywhere around the world, whether they're refugees, which we hope that their situation will be solved sooner or later, and one day they will be back, or and get their dignity back, and like their freedom. We all want freedom and justice, regardless where are we or where we will be or where we are now. So yes, football gives identity, and yes, football is a way to gain dignity, and yes, football is a way to express, and it's a way to bring people together, regardless of all the differences. I can't hear you.
Thank you for sharing, honey. Is there any questions from the audience before we close, or whether it's Zoom or from Facebook? If not, I actually have something that I'm interested about in terms of like the FIFA. Next FIFA is coming up in 2022, is it? Or
2022.
2022. So is there any talks or any kind of fears regarding the coronavirus, especially that this is a kind of a big gathering that's happening? I know it's a couple of years from now, but is there any kind of talks about it or any kind of concerns of, and what's the alternative if there's?
It's actually, so far, everything is going as planned. The work is on, yes, the pandemic and COVID-19 has delayed few things, but from our side and from the Qatari side, everything is going on the right direction. So far, we hope that everything will be okay for 2022. I'm not sure if there will be any discussions about alternatives. This I'm not aware of, but I believe that so far everything going in the right direction despite of the pandemic, and we just hope that the new normal will happen sooner or later, because I think the new normal is something now we have to discuss, because the pandemic has affected so many things and so many lives, and whether it's economy, businesses, but I'm sure it also has some positivity out of that. So I would always say, let's look at the glass half full, and try to learn from our experiences, and hopefully there will be no lives missing because of the pandemic, and we just move forward for the new normal sooner or later.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's great. I think is Sahar, maybe I think I saw Sahar raising her hand. Is there any question? Just applause, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, Hani, thank you so much for being with us on this call, for your inspiring and powerful story. You know, it's really touching and like to me and I'm sure to all Palestinians to hear your story, to hear your success, and keep making us proud in the all international arena, and you're such a great representative of the Palestinian sports and culture and people in general.
Thanks, Shara. And I think I would say definitely the same about you, not because you are my cousin, but because of all the great things you're doing and you did and you're still doing. And yeah, I mean, to establish what you established now in Washington, D.C., it's really a great applause. And this makes us all proud to see this success. So thanks a lot for having me. Thanks for your team. Thanks for everyone listening. I hope you stay well and healthy, and together we are always stronger.
Thank you. And I wanted to just inform the audience that we are right now looking to open the museum in the next few weeks, probably by the beginning of August. We're still looking at what we can put in place and do it limited capacity. We, you know, if this is a normal day, usually when we have the museum, we welcome people with tea and with Palestinian tea. So we hope that we can do that with the pandemic one way or another. Maybe we can offer the tea outside, but we would like to keep the museum as your home. This is your home. We would like to offer and anyone who come to the museum to feel like family and to feel like hospitality and to show who we are. And yeah, we would like to we want you to leave with this message of pride, welcome and hope, and that it really means a lot for us that you're on the call, and not just on the call, but many of you have supported the museum, and with your support we were able to continue these virtual tours, whether create a complete virtual museum and host people like Hani and other concerts. And we invite you to join us in supporting the museum and joining the Resilience Monthly Club, which is a sustaining membership of the museum, $19 a month, to support our efforts moving forward, especially in this uncertain and difficult time where we're not sure how long are we going to open, or if we're going to close again. So your support and the community of support around us is very important. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Hani. Thank you for the staff and the volunteers. And we hope to see you soon on the next call or in person.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great day.
Great day. Ciao.